Hello from Rooted at Badger Rock. Here we are in the kitchen, and we're super excited to be here with Josey Chu of her business, Madam Chu. Josey, welcome to the kitchen, and she has been here all week cooking with our classes, and this food she's going to make tonight has just been flying out the door. So please try it at home. It's so delicious. So Josey, do you want to just take a minute to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Josey and I represent the brand name Madam Chu. We make Southeast Asian condiments and they are currently available in various grocery stores in Madison as well as in Oshkosh, Viroqua. So if you're interested, either go online and check out where we are located or you can buy them online. Otherwise, I do ask that you support the local businesses that support us. Today, we're going to be making a dish that's called stir fried rice noodle. The reason you do not have to use rice noodle, you can substitute it with other noodles such as ramen noodle or egg noodles.
And it is so delicious, you all. You are in for a treat. We'll put Josey's recipe in the comments too, so you all can try this at home.
Hi. So today, what we're going to be doing is rice noodle because some of our friends may have gluten issues. And this is what I use. You do not have to use this rice noodle. You can use the other the dehydrated, the dried version. I use this just to make life a little bit easier because a lot of us do not have huge amount of time at home, and therefore this is something that is super simple. This alone can serve about, I would say 6 people in your family. It's a huge amount, and I'm going to start soaking this in some water. Now, if you have a pot of hot water, you can dunk this into hot water for 5 seconds. So dunk it into hot boiling water, count to 5, 1001, 1002. Maximum is 10 seconds, no longer than that. Otherwise, you're going to get really soggy noodles. So I just leave this here in the water to soak for 30 minutes, and it's just warm water. And as it's soaking, I'm going to start preparing our vegetables and the mix. The first thing I want to do is I want to prepare the sauce itself, because getting the sauce ready and the noodles ready, when we're doing all the frying part, we can just add the noodle and everything would be done. So this is a super fast meal that you can prepare at home with your kids over the weekend. And you know what? You don't even need to cook it over the stove. You can just use a skillet at home. Your kids can cook with you, and the two of you can, or the whole family can just take turn to stir. So I use tamari soy sauce, which is gluten-free again. I don't have the measuring cup, but we do have the recipe. Because this is a 6 people, I would then double the sauce amount. So I would just add the soy sauce in. Now I also add molasses for the sweetness instead of using the black or the dark soy sauce. I use molasses for both the sweetness, and molasses has a really delicious burnt brown sugar taste. That is why I use molasses. You don't have to if you are on a keto diet, but I enjoy molasses. And our vegan friends who do not take honey, this is a good substitute. Now, the next item that I add is vegetable seasoning. I use Better Than Bouillon seasoning. Now, if you have other options that you like, you can substitute that. I just use Better Than Bouillon because I like the taste, the flavor of the roasted vegetable seasoning. I also add ginger garlic, Madam Chu's ginger garlic. And this ginger garlic is available at Willie Street Co-op, the Conscious Carnivore, Brennan's, Metcalf Hilldale, and online. So, check all of these places out because they support us and I like to support them too.
And we can put the links for the direct ordering from Madam Chu also in the comments.
Yeah, thank you. So I add some of the ginger garlic to the sauce. And a little bit of the chicken broth, just a tiny little bit. You do not need a lot. If you liked additional seasoning, you can add some granulated vegetable seasoning, but you don't have to. I just add a little bit of granulated seasoning. And this is it. This is the sauce. Now you can double the batch of the sauce or you can cut it down. If you have excess sauce, just put it in a mason jar in your refrigerator and it will last for a while. Okay.
And the sauce is delicious. This is what makes the dish, you all. So go get Madam Chu products, ginger garlic.
So right now I'm going to prep the vegetables. Not everybody likes Spam. I added Spam to the recipe because this recipe is from my grandmother, and this recipe I modified a little bit using molasses instead of black soy sauce. Now she adds Spam to her stir fried noodle because chicken at that time is expensive for us, and we don't eat beef because in my country, my grandma, she doesn't eat beef. She doesn't know even how to prepare beef, other than for the dog. The dog actually lives better than us. So if you don't like Spam, you can leave that out and you can just add tofu. I like to just add Spam on the side, and that is because a lot of time when we were growing up and grandma make this dish, guess what? The Spam, she add that to the noodles, and sometimes the Spam would cluster with the noodles at one spot. My brother would then have access to that spot and he will just grab all the Spam, and I and my other sister, we will be like left with one or two small skinny slices. So usually from now on, I always like to fry my Spam separately and add that on the side, and just based on experience. So that's the Spam. And the tofu, I will fry that up. So the pan is pretty hot right now. I don't need to add extra grease. I just add the Spam right in there and fry that up. Again, this is just a one skillet dish. So while the Spam is browning up on all sides, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up my tofu, set that aside, and I'll fry the tofu up. Now for friends who doesn't eat tofu, you can leave the tofu out and just add eggs. I know tofu is an acquired taste because not everybody like the spongy tofu texture, but there are also extra firm tofu if you don't like the spongy texture. I cut the tofu to the same size as the Spam, and usually I just leave the tofu out from the noodle as well, so that if friends who doesn't like tofu, they're not forced to put it on their plate. This just a personal choice on my end to leave that out. Tofu is almost like a staple to a lot of Asian family because it is an extra protein and it is not really expensive. So unlike chicken, pork, all the other protein, meat, protein, tofu is a really good substitute. So every so often, I will just stir my spam. And just not to frown on spam, spam is getting to be really expensive
It
nowadays.
really is. So you might even go for chicken instead, huh? Yeah.
Just a can of spam.
I think it
Think
costs $4 or something like that.
this can of spam can go as much as $5 or $4.
Mm-hmm.
Your pack of chicken, $5.99.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Spam is not cheap nowadays. And I was telling Sarah, the reason spam is not cheap nowadays is because spam is starting to be a pop culture where in Korean and Japanese sushi, they do add a slice of fried spam on the sushi rice and the nori dough sheets around. And that itself is absolutely delicious. And that is starting to become a pop culture dish. Just just a head up that, nothing to frown on for spam.
Yeah.
So prepping the other vegetables, I have onions. I like to cut my onions thinly sliced, just like that. Why? Because that goes along with our noodle. Instead of needing to chop it up or dice it into cubes, this is what I do. I just slice it up so when you're eating it, it's like part of the strand of the noodle that you're eating. Carrots, you can use carrots and already pre-shredded. Otherwise, for carrots, I would also, cut them up into julienne style like that. And I don't have the best knife clearly, which is not really good as a chef because this is pretty dangerous to use an unsharpened knife.
So with our students this week, we were using a cheese grater, and that works too.
Right, you can use a cheese grater, and the cheese grater actually will speed up the whole process. If you don't have a cheese grater but you have a food processor, you can use a food processor. The thing is, with a food processor, you know what? You have to take all the attachment apart, and it takes longer to just do that than just slice it up, then julienne it, or grate it. So you get the point of, me julienne this carrots. You can add green onions. Now, if you don't like carrots, you can just leave that out. If you don't like onions, you can leave that out. The whole dish itself is a playground for you with various vegetables. This time of the year, we have asparagus. Add asparagus. This time in the summer, you have zucchini, you have green beans. Throw in the green beans, throw in your zucchini. In the fall, you have your Brussels sprouts. Throw that in. So this dish is, again, a playground for you to use various vegetables in hand. Do you need to use Napa cabbage? No. Napa cabbage, I was telling Sarah, it cooks really fast. So that is the reason why I use Napa cabbage today. But you can just use regular cabbage and just give it a little bit longer time to cook, that's all. If you don't like Napa cabbage, you can add bean sprout. And By the way, I looked for bean sprout at two different Oriental grocery stores. They were out of the mung bean sprouts. So my apology today. Even though the recipe calls for mung bean sprouts, I couldn't find that bean sprouts. So for the spam, it's done. And what I do is I will then take that out and I'll set that aside.
And you said this is your grandmother's recipe, Josey?
Yes, this is. So she loves to cook this, and usually she sometimes, she doesn't add any meat. All that she add was just onions and bean sprouts. What we would do is she would cook curry separately, and we would then add the curry to the noodle itself. So here I have 3 eggs. I'm gonna crack the egg and then we're gonna beat the egg up. Now, a lot of chefs would add salt to the egg. I don't, because I have already have a lot of salt to the sauce itself. So if I add salt to the egg, then you just add more sodium. I like to not add as much sodium to my cooking because I would rather people add the salt as they see they need it than for me to add more salt.
Yeah.
So that's my reasoning for not adding the egg, salt to the egg. So I have my skillet still hot. I will just add the egg in there. Now I fry the egg up. Ooh. And I push that to a side. So I let it cook. And while that is cooking, this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to drain the noodle. And I'm going to add it back here. Remember the sauce that we made earlier? Mm-hmm. Here's the trick that my grandma taught me. You don't add the noodle to the pan and fry it up with all the vegetables and then add your soy sauce, add your molasses, add everything else. No, grandma taught me that in order to make this dish really delicious, you want to add your seasoning to your noodles so that every strand of the noodle is coated. And then you don't have one part white, one part darker color, but all of it is just well coated. And this is the trick to making both egg noodles, rice noodles, the fat, flat rice noodle, or even the rice stick noodle. So the egg is still cooking. I just set that aside. The next vegetables I will fry it up is our onion. If you want, you can add more oil, but I don't think we need more. And you just want to brown your onion. And as your onion is browning, the next vegetables I add is carrots. Why do I add the carrots? Because carrots takes a little bit longer time to cook. Why do I add it at the same time with onions? I like my onions a little bit more brown. And sorry, it's kind of like a little bit smoky in here, but you get the idea. You can add just a smidge it more grease, and that's it. And just fry up the vegetables. And when you see that your onion is nicely brown, your carrots would also be ready.
It smells so good in here already.
Thank you.
And we haven't even added the sauce.
I haven't added the rest of the part of the
Yeah.
ingredient yet. So then I add my vegetables. Oh, I forgot. I would fry up my tofu earlier after I fried up my spam. But I already have some of the tofu fried up earlier for the class, and that's why you would fry them up to this color, brown on all sides. But if you want, you can add your tofu now. So then what we do is we add the Napa cabbage. We fry that up together with our eggs. We chop it up in the skillet. Here is where we add our noodle. You add the rice noodle. At this point, I will add a little bit more vegetable broth. Just a tiny little bit more, like maybe quarter cup, half a cup. And we close it up and we let it cook. We let it steam in there. And that's it. Then when you're ready, you can serve it. I'll give this a quick rinse. You can add your vegetables, your greens if you like. These greens cook really fast, so it's just, garnish. But if you don't want that, you can add cilantro. You can add
lettuce,
green
Josey?
onions. Yeah, this is just Boston lettuce.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see that the vegetable or the noodles is starting to cook in the broth. And we'll just let the liquid dry up and we can dish it out. So here I would leave the lid off because as you can see, we have some liquid in here from the broth and we want to dry that up. And the noodles would also be cooked at that time. So you saw that the noodles earlier was, piled high. Now it is cooked down.
It looks so good.
Sometimes my grandma would take a strand with a pair of scissors and she'll cut it. And she'll cut it so that it's easier for us to eat. So, and as you can tell, every strand of the noodle is coated with the sauce. I'll turn the heat off. And this is a stir-fried noodle. There is different type of stir-fried noodle. Some of the stir-fried noodles that you eat in restaurants are not as liquidy as ours, and that's because it is fried with a lot of grease. The version that we have here has a lot less grease, and that is something that you can do at home super fast and healthy. Load it up with green vegetables. Like I said, you can add bok choy, you can add choy sam, you can add asparagus. Load it up with a lot of vegetables, cook the vegetables, add the noodle on top, cover it with a little bit of broth, and then open it up to dry up the broth, and voila, this is a noodle dish that you can make quickly at home in a short amount of time. With the eggs already in there, you can separate out the eggs. Sometimes, you don't need to add the eggs with the noodle. Instead, you can make an over easy egg and have it on every plate. Now, if you like it spicy, clearly you can add Madame Chu's sambal, and that would spice it up a little bit more. For our family, our little friends who doesn't really care or learning to eat a little bit of spicy, then you can leave that out of the noodle and just put Madame Chu's sambal on the side.
This is the sambal. Also delicious. We have some in our refrigerator.
Sometimes I would make an adult grilled cheese sandwich with the sambal. Yum.
So good.
And just put the sambal on the grilled cheese sandwich, on the cheese itself, and then grill that cheese sandwich and dip that grilled cheese sandwich with your tomato soup. Yum.
Delicious.
So here is your stir-fried noodle. If you like tofu, after you fried the tofu, you can add that on. Now, spam is optional. If you like, you can add that on. But I would tend to be pretty careful with the spam because the kids will just dive right in there.
And they did today and yesterday. All week we've had kids just waiting in lines at the door to see if there's any extras to eat. So this is a delicious, fast, nutritious, and wonderful meal. So you all try it at home. Thank you so much, Josey, for coming in today to share with us, and thank you even more for working with our students all week. It's a real gift to them and to us.
Yeah, so just very briefly, I'm from Singapore, and this dish clearly represents Southeast Asian cooking. And thank you for, Badger Rock recognizing that this month is the AAPI month and bringing us all together in showcasing different dishes from different regions, different countries, but yet, still embracing the fact that we are all Asians. We still are willing to share our recipes, and we are all part of America.
Thank you so much, Josey.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will catch you for the next one.